Picture arriving home after a long day only to discover that someone has constructed a building on your property. Not a stranger, not a random contractor, but your own homeowners association. The same group tasked with safeguarding property values and maintaining order in the neighborhood. It sounds unbelievable, but this exact situation unfolded for one homeowner, and what followed was nothing short of extraordinary. Our story centers on a man we'll call David. He had purchased a lovely home with a spacious backyard, a private retreat he took great pride in. For years, life there was calm and uneventful. He paid his HOA fees on time, maintained his yard meticulously, and enjoyed the comfort of his investment. Then one afternoon, he spotted something unfamiliar near the edge of his property line. A brand-new gazebo had appeared, complete with built-in benches and an elegant roof. It was attractive, sure, but there was one glaring issue. It stood directly on his land. Confused, David pulled out his official property survey documents. The measurements were clear. The section of land where the gazebo sat belonged entirely to him. He had never granted permission for any construction. Assuming it was an honest error, he approached the HOA board with paperwork in hand, expecting a straightforward fix. Calmly, he explained the mistake, presented the survey, and respectfully requested that they remove the structure. The response he received stunned him. The board dismissed his concerns outright. They insisted the gazebo served the community and claimed it had been built on common property. Despite the undeniable proof in his documents, they told him he was mistaken. For weeks, David attempted to reason with them. He sent detailed emails, made repeated phone calls, and even attended a board meeting to plead his case in person. Each effort was met with indifference and condescension. They refused to seriously review his survey, brushing off his evidence as irrelevant. What began as confusion slowly transformed into determination. If logic and courtesy weren't enough, he would have to take stronger action. To David, this was about more than a wooden structure. It was about principle. He believed deeply in property rights. His home was a sanctuary, and he would not allow an overreaching HOA to trample those rights. So he made a decision most homeowners would hesitate to consider. He hired a professional demolition crew. Early one quiet weekday morning, workers arrived with sledgehammers and power tools. Under David's direction, they carefully began dismantling the gazebo that had caused months of frustration. Board by board, beam by beam, the unauthorized structure was taken apart. It was decisive and bold. By midday, nothing remained but a tidy stack of lumber, neatly arranged and ready to be returned to the association. The backlash was immediate. The HOA erupted in outrage. They labeled his actions reckless, illegal, and a blatant violation of community regulations. The same board that had ignored him for weeks now threatened severe legal consequences. And they didn't stop at threats. Within days, David was formally served with a lawsuit. The HOA demanded compensation for the gazebo and additional damages, accusing him of destroying community property. What had begun as a boundary dispute quickly escalated into a high-stakes legal confrontation, backed by the dues of every homeowner in the neighborhood, including David. The HOA retained a team of costly attorneys intent on making him an example. They portrayed him as defiant and unreasonable, a rogue resident who had taken justice into his own hands. David understood the gravity of the fight ahead. He wasn't wealthy, and legal representation would strain his finances. Still, he knew he was standing on solid ground. This battle was about defending not only his property, but the fundamental right of any homeowner to control their own land. He secured an attorney who believed in his position, an experienced real estate lawyer willing to challenge a powerful association. The months that followed were exhausting. The HOA's legal team employed every tactic imaginable. They flooded the case with motions, burying David and his lawyer in endless paperwork. They attempted to depict him as hostile and irrational. They even argued that because the gazebo benefited the community, it somehow superseded the boundaries of private ownership. It was a weak and unusual claim, but they pursued it aggressively. Eventually, the dispute reached the courtroom. Tension filled the air. On one side sat the HOA's polished legal team. On the other stood David and his single attorney. The HOA presented first, displaying photographs of the demolished gazebo and calling board members to testify about the supposed loss to the neighborhood. They argued David should have continued negotiations or pursued drawn-out mediation instead of acting directly. Then David's attorney rose to speak. His approach was methodical and sharp. He began with an indisputable fact. The land belonged to David. He submitted the official county survey into evidence, a binding legal document. He presented the numerous emails and letters showing David's repeated, polite attempts to resolve the matter peacefully. He demonstrated that the HOA had ignored clear proof and refused to engage reasonably. The turning point came during cross-examination of the HOA board president. David's lawyer asked a straightforward question. Before building the gazebo, did the board conduct a property survey to confirm it stood on common land? The president hesitated. After an uncomfortable pause, he admitted they had not. They had simply assumed the land was communal. The attorney continued. So you constructed a permanent structure on property you did not own, without permission, and when the rightful owner objected, you refused to correct the mistake and instead sued him for removing it from his own land? The silence that followed was telling. The HOA's argument began to unravel. When David took the stand, he spoke plainly and sincerely. He described the shock of discovering the gazebo, his attempts to handle the issue respectfully, and the frustration of being dismissed. He told the judge, "My home is my castle. It's the one place that truly belongs to me. When the HOA built on my property, they trespassed. When they refused to fix it, they became squatters. I simply removed something that had no right to be there." The judge listened carefully to every word. After closing arguments, he recessed to deliberate. For David, the weight felt endless. His financial stability and reputation hung in the balance. A loss would devastate him. A win would affirm the strength of private property rights. At last, the judge returned with his decision. He ruled entirely in David's favor. The HOA had trespassed and possessed no authority to build on land they did not own. David had acted within his legal rights after his repeated efforts to resolve the issue were ignored. The lawsuit was dismissed in full, but the ruling went further. The judge ordered the HOA to cover all of David's legal expenses, which had grown substantial. The association that had attempted to intimidate him was now required to fund his entire defense. It was a sweeping victory. News of the outcome spread quickly throughout the neighborhood. The board faced public embarrassment. Their stubborn refusal to admit a simple mistake had cost the community tens of thousands in legal fees. The case became a local legend, a powerful reminder of the importance of due diligence and respecting individual property rights. David's experience stands as proof that sometimes you must defend your rights, even when the opposition seems overwhelming. He never sought confrontation, but when it arrived at his doorstep, he refused to back down.